Ollie Hoyle, catering manager.
Peter Molar, doorman.
Ricardo Oliva, concierge.
Ulrich Edwards, concierge assistant.
We've got you.
Linda Anderson, cafe owner.
Ioana Georgiou, junior sous chef.
Nuno Pinto, bartender.
Mark Black, head porter.
Andrea Demir, receptionist.
We've got you.
Aaron Dixon, apprentice chef.
Federica Pinna, pastry chef.
Sabino Mazzone, pastry chef.
Himari Bochkay, barista supervisor.
We've got you.
Shwam Maharjan, sushi head chef.
Mitchell Collier, duty manager.
Anna Grabczewska, public area cleaner.
Whatever you do in hospitality, isn't it good to know that someone's got your back in case anything goes wrong?
Hi guys, now we'll be talking to the CEO, Mark Lewis from Hospitality Action, about the work they're doing. Hi Mark, how are you?
Sean, good morning. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. It's all going well here.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it.
Supporting your charity, to be fair.
Say again, sorry?
Just glad to be supporting the charity.
We're glad of the support. It's fantastic what you're doing. And yeah, I think it's going to be a great couple of days, isn't it?
Yeah, it should be a great little lineup. We've got a lot going on. So along with us today also, we've got Paul Askew, chef patron from the Art School in Liverpool. Hi Paul, you all right?
Good morning, gentlemen. How are we?
Good morning, Paul. Very well. How are you?
Yes, good. Just a little early start in the kitchen, getting ready for my demo later. So been prepping some nice sea bass ready for later.
Oh, sounds lovely.
Yeah.
So guys, Paul and Mark are going to discuss about the work Hospitality Action do within the industry, especially with all the coronavirus going on and all the chefs that have been affected and other people within the industry have been affected massively. So I'll let you guys have a nice little chat together.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Sean. So good morning, Mark. How are you? It's been a very strange time for us all, a massive challenge. How you've been coping personally with it? Obviously, there you are at home with lots of lovely certificates behind you, looking very serene.
Thank you. Well, it's quite weird. I've never presented at a festival before, and all the festivals I've been to are rather different to this. Yeah, you don't get to sit in the comfort of your own home. You have to queue up for the latrines and queue up for the warm cider. So it's rather nice being sat on the kitchen table and relaxing doing this. But I'm good, thanks. Yeah, I'm home. I'm safe. I'm well. Touch wood. Watching what's been going on with horror. It's been terrible to see so much loss of life, but also terrible to see the industry on its knees. And I just hope against hope that in the coming weeks and months we can get back up and running and dust ourselves down again.
Absolutely. I think no doubt we'll talk about the various challenges that we're all facing as we go on through the chat. But for me, the one lovely thing about all this, and today really is a sort of epitome of that, is how everybody pulls together and how we look out for each other in these times of crisis. And I think, the COVID-19 campaign that you've put together there has been absolutely incredible. And I can only, on behalf of the whole industry, thank HA for the work that they do. It's very close to my heart, and many others in the industry are working hard to support you. But tell us a little bit about what's been going on with that campaign. Obviously, it started right at the beginning of the crisis in March, and it really got momentum quite quickly, didn't it?
Yeah, well, Paul, firstly, thank you very much. That's very kind. The team at HA have been absolutely fantastic. They've all worked harder than you can imagine. Long hours working, often in areas of the charity, aspects of the charity that they're not familiar with, because we had to second people towards this emergency appeal. And yeah, it's been really life affirming watching it develop. I think I would say before I talk about the appeal itself, hasn't this awful time brought out the best of the industry, yourself included? I think it's really shown the industry in a wonderfully positive light. Hospitality is all about looking after people, delighting people, taking care of people. And we've seen that, albeit in a very different circumstance in the last 8 weeks. It's been so heartwarming to turn on Twitter every morning and see people baking bread for old people's homes, for care homes, and putting together Tupperwares of meals for NHS staff. And I know you've been actively involved in some great work yourself. So hats off to you. But yeah, I think the industry has rallied like I guess we always knew it would in this sort of a situation. And what we've been trying to do behind the scenes is help the people who are helping other people. So we realized pretty quickly that there was going to be a huge need and an acute need for finances in the short term for people who suddenly saw their livelihoods pulled away from under them almost overnight. I think there was an announcement from Boris Johnson, perhaps on a Monday, that people should stay at home where possible, and agonizingly, there was no announcement for another 4 or 5 days for the industry to actually close its doors. So we had this limbo where the industry was open for business, but for general public that had been told to stay at home. So terrible times. And I think around that time we realized that poverty was going to be a huge, acute and short-term problem. It's going to be a long-term problem too, but we knew that there'd be families that couldn't put food on the table. So we launched an appeal which had an unbelievable response from so many corners of the industry and beyond, from operators, of course, from suppliers. The suppliers have been unbelievable in terms of the support they've given us. The organizations around the industry, I'm thinking of things like the Craft Guild of Chefs and so on, have been amazing in their support. And then also the general public have been really, really generous, and it's been wonderful to see the donations coming in. My email address is on the donation mailing list, so whenever somebody donates, I see the reason for giving. And sometimes it's somebody who clearly isn't well off, just giving us £2 because that's what they would have spent on a coffee, and they want to give it to us. Other times it'll be a merchant banker who gives us £5,000. We're equally grateful for the £2 or the 5,000, but it's been amazing seeing the general public realizing how much it loves and missing hospitality and wanting to show its support of the industry.
Yeah, it's been incredible, that really. Going back to the announcement from Boris on the 17th, I can only share in the absolute feeling of, oh my God, what is about to happen here. And I know myself and many others felt, the minute that happened, really, it was like turning off a tap, and the phone was ringing and the bookings were being cancelled, and can we have deposits back for events that have been, and you just saw the whole world that you've created just gradually being dismantled. And I know, obviously we then closed the doors on the 20th of March. And I think the feeling that strikes me, obviously the realization that we're all in danger of, in terms of poverty and health, etc. But it was the emotion and the mental stress that, I was quite poorly actually the first few weeks. And as it turns out, I think I've had a version of COVID. I've still not got, my sense of taste and smell has not returned properly yet.
Sure.
So that's a bit of an issue for a chef, as we know.
Yeah, I think that comes back rather than later.
But I'll be honest, I think the mental challenges that lie ahead in terms of, finance. I've got 35 guys on furlough, all looking to see what happens. Are we going to have a future? Can we bring them back bit by bit? What's Mr. Sunak going to give to us next? And as you say, unfortunately, some of these things are still going to unfold further down the line. We can see that now, but already, I think the thing that I wanted to say to you this morning was that I think the speed of your reaction from Hospitality Action was absolutely incredible. How you mobilized to get it so quick. And I think, the people that you've been able to help along the way so far is invaluable. But I think today is about the realization that this is not just about the first 2 months. This is coming now for the next 5, 6, 7 months at least. And I think that's why, for me today, I would urge people to, listen to what you're saying, have a look at the videos, think about all the chefs and the businesses that are going to be performing today and tomorrow, and let's see what we can do. This is a massive challenge, and I think, like I say, hats off to you for being quick out the blocks. But I know myself, if landlords don't start behaving, if insurance companies don't pay out, all of these things, it's going to create more and more difficulty. And for businesses that are already under stress, it's going to obviously impact on employment, isn't it? So, I can only concur with what you say. So where in terms in the campaign are we, Mark? I mean, we got more things planned to unfold? What can we tell the guys?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. So our first action was the emergency appeal. We've now given £250 grants to just over 2,000 families across hospitality, and we have a lovely system where one of my colleagues, Maria, every evening sends out she collects all of the thank you notes from the previous day's grant giving, because we're paying out grants every day at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's so humbling to see the comments from people. People saying, I broke down and wept in the supermarket when I got the email from you saying the money was in my account. People saying, I was down to my last £2 or £3 and I can't feed my little girl, my baby girl. People sending pictures of their children just to bring home with a real immediacy how important it is, the money we're giving them, because they literally couldn't feed children until it came through. So we've been very proud to do that. And but I think now we need to start looking at the mid to long term, because as you said, sadly, this isn't going to go away. I think at the moment there's a lot of businesses, they're almost zombie businesses, that they're alive only because they're being kept alive by the furloughing money and the loans from the government. And who knows what happens when that's all turned off. Will businesses fold immediately? Will they be able to try to push on? Who knows? It'll be, every case will be slightly different. It'll depend on how much space you've got in your sites, and whether you're able to socially distance and still work up a meaningful number of covers. So there's so many variables, and of course some operators are able to find other means of selling their produce, whether that's takeaway or opening up a shop. So we'll see what happens in future. Excuse me. But one thing is beyond question, that is that many tens, hundreds of thousands of people are going to be impacted in the midterm by what's going on. So we wish we could help more people than we can. We can't help all the people. That's what we have governments for. So in the fullness of time, we'll need to look to them to support the people who lose their jobs because of what's going on. But if we can meanwhile play our part and help as many as possible, then I guess that's as much as we can do. So from that emergency appeal that we began with, we're now beginning to look to the midterm, and and that will mean perhaps giving people a little bit more money, or helping people who've fallen through the cracks, perhaps people who are unwell and aren't getting what they need from the government because they weren't working at the moment anyway. So there's so many different constituencies that need help, and we want to make sure that we help the people in the most acute need, because that's what we do, I guess, at the end of the day. In terms of you talked about the mental health aspect, Paul, and I think that's such an important one and so key. There are so many people in hospitality for whom the industry it's a vocation. It's not a job, it's a way of life, it's what they love. I'm sure you're like that. You get up in the morning and you get in early because it's what you love to do, and you're there through the day working hard, and you love the camaraderie of your team, and you love the interaction with your customers, your guests. And that's something that's been ripped away, and I think that's been really hard for people, suddenly finding that loss of purpose and that loss of self. There's a sort of grief that some people have presented to us because of what they've lost. So that's another really important part of this puzzle to focus on as well. We launched a video which people can find on Twitter and Instagram and elsewhere last week, with 7 or 8 people around the industry talking about their mental health challenges and how they're dealing with them. Some people are writing books. Lovely chef called Steve West has written a book and is writing another. Other people are practicing mindfulness. Some people like you are finding solace and purpose in helping others, getting out there and cooking for others. So there are lots of coping mechanisms, but I think what we need to make sure is that people are aware of them, and they're not just sat at home having another glass of whiskey or another can of lager and getting letting themselves get down about the whole situation.
Yeah, I think going back to what you were saying about the people factor and the camaraderie. I think if I had to pick one thing that I'm missing right now, it's that the feeling of the brigade, the feeling of the hustle bustle, and you know, going through a service on a busy Saturday night, and that adrenaline rush, and then being able to sort of stop at the end and share a little glass of beer or something together. It's a drug to us, you know, and we need it. You know, we need it. That's why we do it, really.
Yeah.
A lot of it is otherwise quite painful, as we always say, isn't it? You know, we're very good at looking after others, but we don't look after ourselves very well. And I think that's in our nature. That's part of the inherent problem, I guess. So one thing I always like to ask as well, Mark, is that, you know, we focus a lot on the fundraising side and how to get the money in, quite rightly, and otherwise we don't exist. But how do people get in touch if they've got a problem, or they've got a colleague who they can see maybe doesn't want to contact, but you know, you can clearly see that they're in need of help? How do people go about, you know, getting in touch to be a recipient of the grant?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and it's the most important point, really. We're here, but we need people to come to us. We can't help people until they contact us. Our website is hospitality-action.org.uk, and if people come onto the site, they'll find also all the necessary details for getting in touch. But we have a helpline, and that's the starting point. If they call us and speak to somebody, we can then get a sense of what their issue is, and then we can start to act accordingly. So it's best way is through the website, and then that's where the magic starts.
Yes, exactly. And what sense are you getting from government at the moment, Mark? I mean, I know, you know, I've been working a lot with Kate Nichols at UK Hospitality to try and lobby government and get through this next challenge, which, as I mentioned and alluded to before, to me is the rent and the landlords, followed by insurance companies, followed by what happens with furlough, blah, blah, blah. But I just wanted to get a sense of, I know you're involved with that lobbying process and interacting with the other hospitality organisations around the country. And I just wondered how you were feeling about it all at the moment and where you feel it might be going.
Yeah, just pushing my cat out of the way. Suddenly appeared. Yeah, no, it's a really good question. And I think, as we've discussed, really, the industry needs support in the months and years to come. I think the government has acted reasonably well so far in terms of making loans available and with the furloughing scheme. I think one of the issues with the furloughing scheme, and it would be nice to see this sorted as soon as possible, is the fact that the 80% doesn't include money from the trunk. So actually, people around hospitality are not getting 80% of their wages. They're getting 40 or 50% plus whatever their employer is able to give them on top of that. So I think that's an issue which could do with sorting really, really quickly, because that's causing poverty that isn't necessary. If only that scheme was working effectively and taking into account the way people are paid in hospitality, then they'd be better off now. I think the government needs to be flexible in terms of what it allows the industry to do. I've seen encouraging talk of allowing operators to move out into open spaces. So if you're a restaurant and there's pavement space that allows you to do so, wouldn't it be great if you could put a few tables out there? So I think some leniency on that sort of excuse me, that sort of regulation would be welcome. I know Kate's also lobbying at the moment on the matter of the 1 or 2 meter separation between people. 1 meter is what you can't open a pub or a bar and expect to keep people 2 meters apart. It's just not going to happen. And if you stick to that draconian measure, then I'm afraid we just won't be able to open many of the operations that are closed at the moment. So support in that sort of detail would be hugely valuable. And then I think also the whole rent and rates piece that you mentioned before is so huge. I've spoken to so many operators who are coping at the moment because of loans and because they've furloughed staff, but the landlord is knocking on the door. I saw Jonathan Downey talking about Milk and Honey yesterday on the TV and saying, do you know what? I've paid over the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years, he reckons approaching £4 million to his landlord, day in, day out, always paid on the nail. And now suddenly when things are are upside down and the world has spun off its axis. He's getting no support whatsoever. So what can the government do to, I don't know what it looks like, but what can they do to get landlords to show a little bit more flex? Maybe they need payments from government in order for them to pass on a bit of leniency. But there's so many different ways, small steps that the government could take, and I think it needs to look into all of these.
Yeah, I think just picking up a couple of points there, and I know we're going to move towards a video shortly before we watch that and come back to sum up. But you know, for me, as you say, the 2 meter rule we're campaigning for, we're already looking at our cousins across Europe, seeing, you know, in Greece it's 1.5, in Denmark it's 1 meter, and you know, Spain and France are just about to start opening up. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. But I agree with you. You know, I can only relate to my own restaurant, and we did a table layout. We're a 48-seat restaurant that's now 24 at best, you know, depending on how bookings come in. So you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to realize that you know, the amount of revenue is going to be less than 50% clearly, if we get full every day, you know, and that's all going to pan out. But I think I go back to what we were saying before about landlords. For me, that is the single most important thing right now, because we're just moving into a period where the next quarter of rent is due. I think, you know, the government will have to intervene, and whether it's a furloughing of space, or I know James Downey's talking about national timeout, it amounts to the same thing, really. It's the same principle. But I just think that the big thing for me is that the strapline is we're all in this together, aren't we? So if it's happening to tenants, it's surely happening to landlords too, and we must share the burden. And I think that principle has not been grasped by the landlords at all, and this is the problem, you know. And in terms of insurers, don't even get me started on that. I mean, to me, I can't even bring myself to talk to you about it without getting incredibly angry. So it's better that we leave that for another day. But that will unfold, and you know, I can see it being a bit like PPI in the future, where, you know, if people don't get paid out, then they're going to go after them for mis-selling of policy, etc. So it will happen. But of course, the cynical side of me thinks, are they doing this to put people out of business so that the number of claims decreases? And that really does
it's too horrific to even think about, isn't it?
It is. It's the complete, you know, the complete opposite kind of behavior that we would expect and we would want from anybody that we deal with, wouldn't we? You know, in our teams.
Absolutely. I think the landlords, sorry to interrupt, but I think landlords need to realize that if they put a business out of business, then they're not going to quickly find a replacement for that space. So, you know, it seems to me, as well as a moral argument, there's also a very practical, logical argument for them to show some sort of give, because otherwise they'll just end up with empty premises and they'll be earning nothing at all, furlough or not. So, or break or not. So yeah, for me, it seems an obvious option and a sensible one for them to say, let's work together to help to maintain your business sustainability and to help to maintain monies in some shape or form coming from my premises. But who knows what goes on in their minds?
Absolutely. Well, let's turn our attention back to the most important thing today, which is who we help through Hospitality Action. And I know there's a couple of specific cases that have been highlighted recently in case studies, which are very touching and very emotional. We were just chatting before we came live on air about it. And I wondered if you could just give a little bit of background to this before Sean and the gang put it on, and then maybe we can come back after the video just to finally wrap things up and talk to the guys out there in our virtual tent and tell them how we need to proceed. Is that okay?
Yeah, what a good idea. Thank you, Paul. So we've got a video which Sean is about to show, which features a wonderful lady called April McCaig, an Irish lady who many will know because she worked in Manchester hotels for many years. She worked a long time with a chap called Richard Morell, who is a wonderful man who's on our Northern board, our fundraising board, works across De Vere hotels in Cheshire. So he introduced us to April. She was somebody who had loved her time in the industry, but then became ill, was diagnosed with cancer, so was no longer able to work. She was helped by HA, and she reached out via Richard to say, I would like to, as a thank you, become an ambassador for HA, which is how this video came about. So she's a wonderful woman. I met her for a day up at the Principal Manchester, where she worked for years when it was the Palace Hotel. We had a lovely day together, full of laughs and fun, but she told her story, and you'll see that on the video. What I should say before Sean cues the video is that sadly we lost April just a few weeks ago, terribly sadly, not to COVID-19, but to the cancer that she was already struggling with. So we're proud to have helped her. We're proud to have known her, and it was big of her to tell her story for us.
Hospitality Action is a force for good. We offer lifelines to people who work or have worked in hospitality and find themselves in difficulty or crisis. We help people set their lives back on track. But not all of our stories have happy endings. For April, a secondary cancer diagnosis meant the best we could do for her was to take any financial worries off her mind.
I was diagnosed summer of 2018 with sarcoma cancer and attended Christie Hospital here in Manchester, and from there I've been on a journey with various chemo treatments and an operation. Oh, I've known about Hospitality actually for over 10 years. They've been very, very good to me. They have given me little Christmas presents. I came back on my holiday and I had a birthday present from them and a birthday card, which really surprised me. It was a nice little touch. I've been given a warming grant for heating, and I've been given different amounts of money paid at different times throughout the year. With the HA's help, I've been able to recently take a little trip down to London a couple of weeks ago, and with that I was able to sort of meet up with my friends, go out. We went to the West End, we went and seen the Tina Turner musical, and we had fun. You know, it doesn't take that much sort of to be with your friends and sort of having that sort of tranquility and fun. It's less pressure too. It's knowing that next month there'll be a sum coming in then too, and that'll pay off all the utility bills. So it's a safety net that's there, and I'm very, very grateful that it's there, that I'm able to use it.
Whatever life throws at you, isn't it great to know somebody's got your back when the going gets tough? Help us to help people like April, people like you. Hospitality Action, we've got you.
That, you know, it's heartbreaking, isn't it, when you see cases like this, but yet at the same time we have to feel that it's heartwarming as well, in that you were able to help, you know, right up until her passing. And I think, you know, again today, just to reiterate what we were chatting about before, that the most important thing today is that we must continue to enjoy our industry and look after our people and celebrate our industry, but at the same time, which is what today is all about, at the same time, let's raise some funds, let's make sure we can help more people like that lovely lady, and I'm sure you would feel the same way about that, and I'm sure she would want us to continue the fight and enjoy what we do. You know.
100%, Paul. Yeah, you're absolutely right. April was a force of nature. She was wonderful to be around. She loved life. She loved helping people. She loved providing hospitality. She says that in the video that we just saw. She was the beating heart of hospitality, the sort of person that makes the industry what it is and as wonderful as it is. We, as I said, we're proud to help her. And I think it's important to point out that we will, of course, do all we can to help people affected by COVID-19, whether that's financial support or dealing with bereavement or whatever else comes their way. But at the same time, there are people like April who are dealing with awful issues which are not connected necessarily with COVID-19. problems with physical health, problems with mental health, problems with life-changing illnesses which need changes and modifications to a house, problems with domestic abuse, which requires somebody to move away from a flashpoint. There are so many issues in life that trouble us, and we'll continue to help with all of those issues, as well as a more focused support on issues around COVID-19.
Well, it's stunning work that is being done, Mark, and you know, you've got our 110% backing up here in the north, and well, I know across the whole industry, people continue to pull together, continue to look out for each other, and let's hope that the next 48 hours only confirms that belief, and that we raise a fine sum of money to go into the coffers and help more people. But Mark, thank you so much for your time and all the things that you and the team do. It's always a pleasure to catch up, and maybe soon they'll let us loose in Manchester and Liverpool to raise some more money at those lovely dinners that we do from time to time.
I look forward to that very much, Ed. It wouldn't be lovely to start seeing people face to face again, and Zoom and StreamYard and all these apps are all well and good, and thank God for them. But yeah, I look forward to shaking your hand and giving you a big hug and having a glass of something with you in a few months' time.
Absolutely. Well, enjoy the weekend, Mark. I'm sure we'll be chipping in and out to see you. I'll hand back over to Sean, and I'll go and get ready for my demo. See you later.
Thanks very much for that, guys. You've done great there. I'm just going to finish off with the We Are Again Hospitality Action.
Thank you.
Ollie Hoyle, Catering Manager.
Peter Molar, Doorman.
Ricardo Oliva, Concierge.
Ulrich Edwards, Concierge Assistant.
We've got you.
Linda Anderson, Cafe owner.
Ioana Georgiou, Junior Sous Chef.
Nuno Pinto, Bartender.
Mark Black, Head Porter.
Andrea Demir, Receptionist.
We've got you.
Aaron Dixon, Apprentice Chef.
Federica Pinna, Pastry Chef.
Sabino Mazzone, Pastry Chef.
Himary Bochkay, Barista Supervisor.
We've got you. Shom Maharjan, Sushi Head Chef.
Mitchell Collier, Duty Manager.
Anna Grabczewska, Publiceria Cleaner.
Whatever you do in hospitality, isn't it good to know that someone's got your back in case anything goes wrong?